Hello and welcome back to the Youngstown Click Be Connected podcast. Today I am bringing to you the mayoral candidate. You guys saw the interview that we did with the mayor, and now today you get to see Derrick McDowell, who is not only a business owner, but he's also running for mayor. So these are really cool opportunities for you guys to kind of get to know some of the players, people you might read about in the newspaper and kind of see blurbs about, but they both have given me the opportunity to actually sit down with them and get to know them a little bit and bring it to you, Youngstown Click. I'm super excited. And we are coming to you from the Ohio One building. The Ohio One building is such a historic place here in Youngstown. It was actually built, the electric company built it back in the day. And it's still beautiful, the office space for rent, and it's right in the heart of downtown Youngstown. So if you're looking for office space and you do business anywhere in the area, definitely check into the Ohio One building. It's a beautiful spot. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are? You started Youngstown Flea. I remember when Youngstown Flea was like brand new. Yeah. And I talked to you then and you were inspired by a trip and then you decided to bring it back to Youngstown. So kind of bring us up to speed from what that has looked like from the time you brought Youngstown Flea, who you are as a person, and then we'll get right into everything.
Yeah. So I'll begin at the beginning because I'm the mayoral candidate, and a lot of folks are just getting the opportunity to hear some of my story. And so I am born in the city of Youngstown. I was born in Northside Hospital. I am a proud son of this city. I was taken to Birmingham, Alabama to be raised by my mom. My mom had 4 boys. She left her oldest son here to be raised by my grandmother. And then, her youngest 3 sons, we were taken to Birmingham, Alabama to be raised. I was there till I was about 14 years old. Okay. Unfortunately.
Did you get the accent?
I did. Look at her, about to go to the stove. Look right quick, but unfortunately, my oldest brother who remained here in Youngstown was murdered in 1995, and so that's what precipitated our return to the city. It was a very confusing space to be in, to return to a city that I didn't know much about, but having a tragedy bring you back was even more traumatic for me. But I've been here ever since 1995. I'm a graduate of Cheney High School. So
good old Cheney, the Cowboys.
Yeah. And I say that to say because a lot of people don't know those simple things about me, that I attended Youngstown State University for 3.5 years. I got caught up in that transition from quarters to semesters, and
it was 3.5 because you almost finished that.
Yeah. But corporate America came calling, and I jumped out the window, got married, had a baby, and needed to provide for my family, and so went to AT&T and built a career there for about 12.5 years, and fast forward, one of my clients at AT&T who had a large account was the Austintown Harley-Davidson shop, and I would take care of them quite frequently. And he sort of bought me out of corporate America and saw my skill set to build business and said, hey, I need help building business. He saw the future of motorcycles and transportation. And so I left AT&T, worked as a consultant for the Harley-Davidson for about 3.5 years. And in that travel, I was in places like Portland, Denver, Miami, New York, just digesting our country and the motorcycle scene and culture.
I did not know that about you. I did not know that you were doing the motorcycles.
Yeah.
What?
And so learned a lot, and then that's when I saw examples of the Flea.
Okay.
Imagine going to Denver and seeing a Flea, going to Brooklyn and seeing their Flea, going to Miami and seeing their Flea. And then you come home, and the closest thing we had at the time was Cleveland had a Flea, and Pittsburgh has a neighborhood Flea.
Right, or something like Four Seasons. Or Rogers and stuff like that. Those are a little bit, flea markets, right.
So reclaiming that word, flea, was more of a little upscale presentation, more artisan. And then you would see YSU Summer Festival of the Arts would be a very good example of it. But when you get home from traveling in the city that you love, you're on these adventurous highs.
Right.
And you're kind of looking around your own city. You're like, where is it?
Right. And what's stopping it? Why can't it be here? Right. So before we go further in that direction, I want to back up a little bit. How did your family handle the loss of the brother that you that was still here in Youngstown? I mean, that had to have been, we kind of glossed right over it, but that had to have been a little traumatizing for your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that a lot of folks don't know is that it was the first time I ever flew on a plane. The urgency to get back to Youngstown for my mother to figure out what was happening. My mom didn't have the money to even fly my other two brothers here, so they never got to even go to my brother's funeral. It was the first time I met my dad in the funeral car. I had no clue I was even going to a funeral. And so as a parent now, I look back on how my mom handled this trauma, and maybe it wasn't handled in the best way. If for an outsider looking in, you don't know all the conditions that our family had to deal with. But it was very, very traumatic for me. And at my brother's funeral, I pretty much regressed within myself.
Really?
I made decisions right there at his gravesite to just close myself off. I didn't know Youngstown. We had grown up in the housing projects in Birmingham, Alabama. They were difficult enough. And if you can recall the 90s in the city of Youngstown, the year my brother was murdered, there were 68 murders that year. And so
goodness.
That was something almost as if starting all over again with your survival mode and mechanisms. And I just couldn't handle it. And so I went all through high school largely to myself, almost like a ghost on my own island, not making friends. I tried to come out of my shell a little bit. Unfortunately, my mother wound up, kind of not taking care of herself. She ended up having a stroke. She was in a nursing home for about 18 years until she passed about 4 years ago. And so my mother's response to it was traumatic. Again, I don't have my other brother's perspective to having to recall that incident and trauma and saying, hey, we didn't even get to grieve. We didn't get to say our goodbyes in the same way. So there was a lot going on. And then we relocate back here. And so can you imagine relocating to where the trauma incident happened? We moved into the same home that my grandmother was raising my brother in. You had city schools closing at the time, so you had student population moving all over the city. South had recently closed. I went to Woodrow Wilson for 1 year. A lot of folks maybe don't know that. And then my mom moved us to Cheney. So it was a lot. It was a lot.
Wow. Okay, and then what about your grandparents? So you were raised with your grandparents, living with your grandparents?
This wasn't immediate. When we came back, my mom, I was 14, and so I was very aggressive about trying to escape the conditions that we had found ourselves in with poverty and just struggle. So my mom was, in my estimation, okay in the sense of her health for about 4 years. By the time I turned 18, I wasn't looking back, and I wasn't checking in on my mom to know that progressively she was just not taking care of herself. So by the time I turned 18, 19 is when she had her stroke. And, you feel guilty as a son not really checking in. But what do you know at 14, 15 when you're trying to figure out for yourself? You carry a guilt of not checking on everyone else in your family.
Absolutely.
That's where you see me trying to go into college, trying to go into corporate America to make something of myself, to escape all of the conditions that you thought, man, if I'm going to do anything in this life, certainly don't want to wind up murdered in the city of Youngstown. Don't want to find up with drama. I've seen just too much of that in my life. Especially if you know anything about the inner cities. I mean, can you imagine a mom with 4 boys? Everywhere we went as brothers, we looked like a gang to people. We looked like trouble. And so trouble would come our way. People would just pick on us like, hey, who do you guys think you are? So you always had to be aware of what back alley you're going to walk down? Where's the bully? Where's the trouble going to come from today? Which one of my brothers mouthed off to someone?
Wow.
Who mouthed off to my brothers?
So who's mad at the McDowell name?
Yeah.
So okay. So that probably has a lot to do with the work that you've done. I'm not fully familiar with, but I know that you've done a lot of work to try to speak into the youth, speak into the kids of Cheney and East before the merger. You were doing things to try to bring them together, to try to eliminate some of that, the mentality of that. So talk to us a little bit about your work with that.
Yeah, so in my time with the city, I wound up as an independent consultant to the amphitheater Ween Park facilities.
Okay.
And so you can look at those spaces as an opportunity to engage our community. And so I would see just tension between schools, athletes, parents and families. And so, there was an opportunity to try and bring together our community and remind them. I did an East and Cheney's football teams were going to play each other at the Reagan Stadium on the north side. And prior to that football game, I said, how do we get this tension relieved and remind these two teams that though you're competitors, you're still community? So what I did was, weeks prior to the game, I built a communal table down at the amphitheater, decorated half of the table in Cheney's, colors, and decorated half of the table in East's colors, and got banners for both teams, brought out cheerleaders for both teams, brought out footballs. We used the lawn space to play like a little rough and tumble game like I used to do back in the day. And so these kids for a second forgot that they were, two different teams.
Schools.
And then I reminded them that Youngstown is before both of your school names.
Right.
And so those were efforts. And being invited into the Youngstown City School District to speak to incoming classes, to, I volunteered quite some time for junior achievement for about 10 years that took me into the Youngstown City Schools. Organizations that do after-school programming with our kids, Inspiring Minds, Cool Boys, Red Zone, those kind of organizations have also presented opportunities for me to engage with our youth as well. And so that work is because I can remember my time within the Youngstown City Schools. And,
and some of the pitfalls and different things along the way.
Yeah.
So when you have, when you're talking about potentially going into a mayoral position, right? How much of that is your concern about the youth in the future? I know that your slogan is what, reclaiming our identity.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about the part that the youth and the upcoming generations have to do with the identity of the city, and maybe some of the plans or the vision that you see for the city.
Sure. When I speak about reclaiming our identity, it's one of those things that I can better sum up when we look at prior identities that the city has had and what they have done for us. We had a deeply rooted identity in the steel mills.
Okay.
We were worldly known for that. We were, across this country, one of the largest producers of steel. And so that rooted itself in who we are. Unfortunately, at the devastating loss of the mills, we move into an identity that led us into the mob. And
true.
That identity still plagues us today. And from there, when you see a largely, dealt with demise of the mob in most cases, you move into a murder town identity. And so look at the identities that we've had.
Yeah.
Steel mill town, mob town, and murder town. And now ask, how is that serving us today? And those identities are not identities that folks want to do business with. You don't want to do business with Mob Town. You certainly don't want to do business with, Murder Town.
Yeah.
And this idea of Mill Town is just no longer. And we can't continue to try and hold on to that identity, though we can honor that heritage and pay it forward. So today's identity must be rooted in exactly who we are. If we want to know where industry is going to come from, it is rooted in identity. It is rooted in exactly who we are, what we do well, and what we are known for, what we'd like to be known for.
Right.
And so youth play a major part in that because they are the legacy that will carry on identity.
Right.
We are presently working on, Youngstown Click itself is working to help on identity because you highlight the beautiful and wonderful parts of our community. Identity. Yeah, absolutely. It calls me back to a time where I first got a communication from you about like, hey, I'm starting this wonderful initiative to talk and speak well about the city of Youngstown. But I guarantee you that in all your well-doing with Youngstown Click, I'm going to go so far as to say that you don't have to look far.
No,
to find
oh my goodness. The more you find out, the more you find out.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And so as you step into a mayoral run, it can be very confusing to people because oftentimes in politics, we're looking for a little more like sound bites. Like, I'm going to reduce crime and violence in the city of Youngstown. I'm going to improve education in the city of Youngstown. I'm going to fix all the roads. But I guarantee you, if you go back to all of those things, you cannot fix crime and violence in a community where people don't value one another. And when you don't value one another, if you don't value your own life, you have no regard for taking another. And so that identity must play a part in saying, I am from this family, from this city.
Yeah.
I have a pride in who I am and where I'm from and the people who live here.
Right.
And so when I see them, I don't see them adversarially. I see them as someone who is an asset to the community.
Yeah.
And so those are places that are sentiments to some folks, but they're not for me. It is everything to me to see this city and say its value, its worth, its significance, and beginning from there sets us on a course to go then down the road of identity leading us to industry. And again, let's talk about some of the wonderful industries.
Identity leading us to industry. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I heard a businessman, very, very, very smart businessman, but he just said that people come to a place because it's a great place to live. They're great schools. They feel safe. They feel like the quality of life is good, and then they find the jobs. Generally, it doesn't go the opposite. Sometimes you'll see somebody move into an area because of the jobs, but generally, people move into an area because it's a good place for their family. They feel safe. And so if we could provide that, then the jobs will come, then the people will come that will actually add value to the city and stuff. And so that kind of sounds like a little bit of what you're saying.
Yeah. So let me try this one. I was talking with a gentleman who owns a large commercial real estate company.
Okay.
And I said, I would like to describe a city to you without using its name. And I want to see if this would be a city that you'd like to do business in.
Okay.
And I said,
this will be interesting.
The city that I'm describing has approximately 60,000 residents.
Okay.
The city has its own state university right in the heart of its downtown, and the beautiful campus with build outs happening all day long. A $58 million investment is being made in the student center of this campus alone, let alone the dorms that have been built out and the care that they take in beautifying this property. I said, in this city, it has its own performing arts theater. It has its own symphony. It has its own American art museum. It has its own brewery downtown. It has its own public markets.
I want to move there.
And before I got done, he says, I would love to do business in a city like this. And I go, yeah, it's called Youngstown.
Wow.
And largely what I just described to you is just its downtown. I haven't even gotten beyond.
Come on.
And so the point of that is to show you how much we have as assets to this community, but also to point out that as soon as you attach our name to all of those assets, it can sometimes become a problem for people because they hear much of the other side of our identity. As soon as you add our name in there, they go, oh, Youngstown. I heard about you all.
Wow.
I heard about the Mills, the mob, and so again, identity issue. Let's talk McKelvey Lake for a second.
Okay.
Tell me what you know about McKelvey Lake or what you've heard about it.
Okay, McKelvey Lake, I don't know much. I did just find out that the mayor teaches kids to fish sometimes on McKelvey. And then the other thing that I know is that they've found tons of guns thrown into McKelvey because at the Canterville Fair, the sheriff's department has like all these display of guns. But that's pretty much all I know. I've never actually been to McKelvey. I don't really have any.
Yeah, and so most times when I ask people without prompting them, what do you know about McKelvey Lake? They say dead bodies and guns.
Oh,
and so
wait,
that's
I didn't
an identity
know about the
issue.
dead bodies.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
and so
man.
that our lake has an identity issue in that no one wants to really recreationally or economically invest in an area that they believe still has dead bodies and guns floating around.
When's the last time a dead body floated up in McKelvey Lake? But for those people who are watching, can you tell them, so the Mahoning River, because we have some bodies of water.
Yeah.
So can you explain real quick, just a kind of a side note, how McKelvey Lake and Mahoning River, like where's McKelvey Lake?
McKelvey Lake would be off of Jacobs Road on the east side.
On the east side,
yes.
Okay. And then does that connect to the Mahoning River?
No, it actually doesn't.
Oh, it's its own thing.
It's its own thing. Yeah. And so the Mahoning River for us was vital to that steel mill period of time because a lot of businesses you'll see, and even where the Youngstown Flea is situated, what actually branches off of the Mahoning River is what's called Crab Creek.
Okay.
Runs behind Penguin City Brewery and Youngstown Tube, down Andrews Avenue. Those were necessary bodies of water for dipping steel in there to cool it off. And so there were average temperatures above 100 degrees that the river would stay at because of all the use of the mills.
Oh, my.
And so, there were some very interesting, we have to have solved some sewage and plumbing that we used to, just dump right into the rivers. And so the use of the rivers then, you're talking, a half century ago and even further back, are not the uses that we are looking at today when we want to talk about fishing and kayaking and boating and recreation.
I actually went kayaking, and you could see the picture of the era gone by with these different things that you're like, oh, they used to do this. They used to bring it down here. It was like a history journey going down the Mahoning River. Yeah.
And so where else do we see identity challenges? Well, what we talked about earlier within our Youngstown City School District.
Yeah.
You're going to see after this school year a combining of the middle and high schools. And so we're going to shed ourselves of some of the identity that we've always known with Youngstown City Schools and combining Cheney and East High Schools. And we're going to already decided on a new name and new mascot for those unified schools. And
I want to talk to you about this. Let's stop here for a second because I want to find out a little bit about your thoughts on it, how you think it'll go, how it's gone so far.
Sure.
But we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be we'll be back right after this quick commercial. All right, we are back with Derrick McDowell, owner of the Youngstown Flea and upcoming mayoral candidate on November 4th.
Yes.
The voting is taking place. And the thing I love about both you guys is that you both have a heart and a passion for the city. You both have something that you want to do for the city.
Sure.
But I haven't, even behind the scenes, neither of you guys are bashing each other.
No,
neither of you guys are like, cutthroat. You both have this heart for the city. And I really want to touch on that here. So we left off talking about the city schools.
Sure.
And obviously we touched on your passion for the place that the youth have to play in the future.
Absolutely.
So let's start with the city schools. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the issues that you might see the city have and some of the ideas that you have to kind of combat them. Because a lot of times people will say, oh, well, it's his first time. Does he know how to be a mayor? So I really kind of want to see to pick your brain to see some of the insights and ideas that you have. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's talk about the schools. Do you Obviously, it kind of helps to take away like that rivalry.
Yeah.
But sometimes people say, that school rivalry is kind of good for people to kind of stretch them and stuff. So what has been behind the scenes and kind of you've developed relationships with both schools.
Yeah.
So how do you see that going and what do you think about that idea?
A lot of people don't maybe investigate how the district may have had to arrive at some of its decisions. And so that can create, some tension in of itself, because some might interpret these decisions as just poorly made decisions, when oftentimes they can be in response to difficult choices that you just have to make, right? Busing is a very hot topic and hot point for a lot of folks in the community. And the district found itself in a position where, because it had been in an academic warning, state takeover, vouchers that were provided to
and didn't we have a superintendent that stole from the district?
I wouldn't say stole. We had a CEO prior to the current superintendent that I would say mishandled quite a bit of money in the decisions. So the city district was awarded $78 million, I believe, in American Rescue Funds. And some of his decisions and how he was spending that money just didn't result in the outcomes we were looking for. So there were no, in my investigations, claims of theft. It was really just he spent $14 million trying to bring citywide internet infrastructure for students without coordinating with the city and those who own the telephone poles. And so you already entered into this contract, and then you were told, hey, we can't move forward with actual infrastructure implementation. And so I wouldn't call that theft. I would just say it was a poorly constructed plan that resulted in $14 million. I believe some of the contract was dissolved and they were able to bring that down to about $5 million, but that was in actual hardware and equipment that still, I believe, sits in the district warehouses to date. And so decisions like that gobbled up $78 million. So from what I know from outside looking in, I don't believe there were any accusations of theft or inappropriate use of the funds, just more so decisions that led to outcomes that didn't, make the money a return on investment.
Which then put the district in a position where they had to make some decisions to cut costs and that type of thing. So now, just to kind of I've been reading up on this a little bit. Wait, who is our new superintendent? So we have a new superintendent now?
Yep, Superintendent Jeremy Batchelor.
And where's he from?
Jeremy's from here.
Oh, I like to hear that. I like to hear that. Okay, good.
I believe he's a Mooney graduate, though, so we're going to pick on that a little bit.
Mooney graduate.
Nothing wrong with Mooney. Right. Actually, my oldest brother graduated from Mooney as well. I'm just picking.
Okay, but the fact that he understands local kids, he understands the local region, it's not somebody from outside that we think is going to solve all of our problems, that doesn't truly understand the nature of the area. So that's really great to hear. So, that's good to clear. Thank you for clearing that up, because I honestly thought that there was some funds that were mishandled or stolen, and I was like, obviously it hurt my heart to know that the kids are the ones that suffer in all that.
There are some ongoing attempts for the district to investigate those decisions by the prior CEO.
Got it.
And look at where that funding went and try and recoup some of it with some of the contracts and some of the expenditures.
Right.
And so again, those are more things that I would encourage folks. You got to get to those board meetings to inquire more about that, and whether it's fully public knowledge. Certainly ongoing litigations, the district may or may not be able to speak on those. And so again, I'm going to remain an outsider looking in with what I know, and that's what I'll speak to. But to your point, though, that did leave the district in a position where financial decisions had to be made, and so a bit of that is where this merger is coming from. It's saying that we are, as a district, and have been struggling. That is no secret. I don't believe it is. And so you have now vouchers. You have open enrollment that is taking some of our kids that are zoned for Youngstown City Schools and sending them to charter schools, parochial schools, out of the district. And that declining student population leaves a sprawling public district with more buildings than it needs.
Yeah.
Less students, less funding.
Right.
And so, the decision for busing came along with some of that additional funding challenge and financial constraints. And so,
so what's it look like now? Because I do see the benefit of having one big Youngstown city identity, right? Because then people get to know each other, and they're less likely to be like, oh, you're from that side of town, I'm going to shoot you. You know what I mean? Like, because you're all in this together. So from your boots on the ground perspective, how has that been received by the students? How's it going? What are some of the challenges that you've seen need overcome?
Yeah. So, I'm one of those people that says, hey, I don't get to make this decision. So don't kill the messenger. People think, it's like I'm only a mayoral candidate. You don't control the district. So these decisions are being made as we speak.
Okay.
And so whether we like it or not, and I don't want to say that in a mean, disparaging way, but whether we like it or not, decisions are being made that are going to bring one unified school in the 26-27 school year. And so already I'm seeing the district try and bring together community alumni from the 6 previous schools and preserve history. And so that's a wonderful thing, because there's a lot of contention about we're about to lose some of that history if Cheney Cowboys and East High Golden Bears combines. That feels like and is a infrastructure loss in the sense of its name and identity. But we can still properly honor the 6 schools. You're talking about North Bulldogs. You're talking about South Warriors. You're talking about Wilson Redmond, Cheney, Cowboys, East. Those are schools
Tigers.
that, Randy, Ray, and Tigers. Don't let me forget anybody, because, boy, if you don't put the Rayin on there, I'm sure Mayor Brown will be the first to come over and say, hey, man.
Right, he's a Tiger.
Yeah. And again, that's just a joke. And Mayor Brown and I, you spoke to earlier, we've seen each other all across this city, not just during this campaign, but in the years that we've loved on this community. And so the contention is not there for me.
Yeah.
I served him, and when he was on council as when I was at AT&T, council members used to come to AT&T to get their phones.
Serious?
And so we go way back.
Yeah.
But back to the district again. I'm seeing them take proactive steps to involve the community.
Okay.
They arrived at the name of the new school, combined school, and a mascot by putting out the surveys, hosting town hall meetings.
Okay.
There is opportunity, again, to do more, right? We can utilize our athletic teams. We can use our academic infrastructure to say, let us bring these kids together a lot more before the merger happens, so that they can get accustomed to one another.
Okay.
A good example would be in the way that you saw, Denzel Washington in Remember the Titans, right? You had 2 opposing schools. It was more racially motivated, black and white, and he took them, put them on a bus, and said, "We're going to camp, and by the time we get back, this is all going to be settled and solved."
Okay.
And I don't want to reduce it down to something as simple as a movie,
right? Yeah.
But
that was
it gives
a great
us
movie.
an example of that if we don't come together,
yeah,
and figure this thing out, you do have concerns that I've seen at the Board of Education meetings from scholars who are saying that they see the tension out in the community, and they're nervous and afraid of combining schools. You see students and staff wondering, is there going to be a surplusing of administration or teachers? You see community members and organizations who want to help support the district who are just, still in limbo with some of the decisions that have to be made. And so I do see the effort, and I see the challenges of it, and I believe it's going to take very good leadership to walk us through. Leadership that a superintendent's going to have to bring.
Yeah.
Leadership that you see a Board of Education is going to have to bring. We have about 3 seats up for election right now. With the Board
on the
of
ballot.
Education.
Okay. So that's something that you guys could do your research on too. Is that is there a race? I mean, so we have 3 seats, and how many contestants? Do you know?
You have some incumbents who are occupying that seat, and you have, folks that are going after those seats. I believe there's 3 incumbents, obviously, that want to retain their seats, and 3, challengers in those seats, if not more. I believe there might be 4 challengers, and so
so make sure you do your research ahead of time, guys.
Yeah. And that's why I say to people right now, local politics, these local races, though there may not be a presidential race happening, there's no state initiative on the ballot coming up for November 4th of this year. It comes down to our local races. President of council, municipal court judges are on the race, on the ballot. Mayoral candidates, board of education members. And so each one of those things plays a part in what we're talking about when we talk about how the Youngstown City School District itself will move forward with support from a superintendent, board of education members, whoever those may be, a mayor, how a mayor supports a district and citywide education. Those are absolutely critical decisions that we've got to arrive at, and if we want the future of the city of Youngstown to be bright.
Okay, so let's get into some of the specifics. Some things that you are maybe excited about getting your hands into, some potential things that the city, talk to us about what changes you would be excited to possibly see under your leadership.
Sure. I will tell you that unfortunately in my canvassing over the last 9 months as a mayoral candidate and my engagements for a decade or more, talking with neighbors like right across from me, Penguin City Brewery, downtown business owners, block watches and neighborhood group members and leaders. You're talking about years and years and years worth of data collection. And what I've arrived at is, unfortunately, we have a city hall that's very non-responsive to our community. We have a city hall that is not transparent. We have a city hall that has not been held accountable for a lot of the missteps that it has made. And folks are angry. And so I'm looking at getting my hands on City Hall as a part of the administration and repairing some of that breach. Ignoring our residents cannot continue. Communication directly with the folks who have elected us and put us in office to represent them is essential to get where we're going. And so City Hall for me is a heartbeat of the city, and out of that heart flows the future of our community. And so we have to have leadership that can be called to the carpet, that will say, I'm sorry. We have to have leadership that will go out here and say, we made a mistake. Help me get it right. And for the time that I've seen in this current administration, you don't see that. You don't see the acknowledgement that we got this wrong, completely wrong. And community residents, downtown businesses and stakeholders are pointing it out repeatedly over and over and over and over again, looking for transparency of what happened, accountability for someone who's responsible, and a plan for how we're going to move forward to get ourselves back on track. You can see that in the downtown. You can see that in the neighborhoods and the investments that haven't been made. You can go to the $82.7 million that was a government bailout for this city and say, how did we strategically use that money to benefit the entire city? And most folks cannot even tell you, A, that we got that money. There are still people who absolutely were unaware.
Really?
And there are people who have no clue how we strategically use that money to bring a return on investment. And so that's the direct communication
I
that we're
see.
talking about.
I thought you meant there's still people who didn't know that we got that money.
Oh, there are.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
that was
folks
a significant.
that didn't know that Youngstown City Schools got that money as well. There are folks who don't know the county got money as well. And so, there's an onus on the community, obviously, to be informed. We have apathy here. We have folks who are not deeply engaged. But I believe part of that is because in some instances, they've tried to go after answers to questions and challenges and issues. And when they don't get those answers, they just, regress.
Is the mayor position, is that over the Board of Education?
No, it's not.
It's not.
Not
okay. So basically, trying to make the city schools like kind of cutting edge and top line and all that stuff. That's not a mayor. The mayor is not over that.
You don't have the authority in those spaces, but you do have the ability to collaborate within those spaces and influence and bring things to the table that are going to help foster the environments that we're looking for. So no, a mayor cannot go into Youngstown City Schools and tell a superintendent what to do with a district.
Okay.
There are some mechanisms within the state for a mayor to have some authority over the Board of Education. And that came through the state bill that took over the district. I believe that part of that mechanism, House Bill 70, said that if the district continued to fail for a number of consecutive years, that a mayor could go in and actually wipe the school board and reappoint folks. Okay. So there are some mechanisms that give that ability in certain instances. But no, you don't get to just walk into the school board and start telling them what to do. But,
and would it be the same with the police department?
No, that's actually a different scenario. And so within City Hall, a mayor actually appoints all the department heads. And so that is your law director is appointed by the mayor. Your police chief, your fire chief, your head of economic development, your head of the water department, your head of public works, parks department, all of those departments sit within the administration in City Hall. And you do have absolute direct control over who you place in those positions. And they are critical. The decisions that we make when it comes to, for example, a law director in litigations that the city finds itself in. Our previous law director, we were litigated against to so many degrees that it cost us time, money, consulting fees, infrastructure, delays in projects. I mean, it was just a full-out challenge to watch our city's administration continue on the previous law director and some of those decisions that were just damaging to our community.
Wow. Okay. So now, how do you train to be a mayor? Like, is it just a lot of experiences that kind of like put you in place? And why did you decide now?
You know, for me, I don't know that there's a mayoral training that you can take. I would think that Trump was probably asked that question, like, how do you train to be a president when he had no prior political experience either. Yeah. But I think there are some lived experiences. And I think there are some absolute, job descriptions that qualify you and breed competence for, upcoming positions. And so leadership, is one of the things that I tout in my experience, because for 12 and a half years at AT&T, I was placed in a position of leadership where you had to oversee staffing, you had to oversee large budgets, you had to oversee inventory. I had to work with bargained employees who are union covered, and so keeping grievances down and making sure that my employees are happy, and therefore they go take care of the customers who pay our paychecks. Well, if you apply that to a mayoral scenario, our city's charter describes a mayor as this. It says the mayor is the chief executive officer of the city. And so CEO is business language. And so what are we in the business of? We're in the business of taking care of people who are gathered in this municipality of an incorporated city called Youngstown. And so how do you take care of those people? You have to deal with the city services that we provide and their quality of life, which now goes back to how important it is to make sure the department heads that you have appointed are hiring the right people, right? Because it's the people within City Hall that are the wonderful folks who are going to go take care of the wonderful folks out in our community.
So, interesting.
I've looked at City Hall. I have gone to the block watches, the neighborhood meetings. I have sat in council meetings. I have sat in those rooms talking with department heads and folks. And so, again, I remain a private citizen up until this point who understands business. And so for me, looking at the city's charter again that says a mayor is the chief executive officer of the city, my lived experiences and my resume points to that I understand what it takes to manage a city. I understand what it takes to lead in environments that have layers to them. multiple departments with employees that are not only appointed but hired and bargained by unions and those kinds of things.
If you give me $1, you can keep most of the change because all I really want is a quarterback.
Okay, wait. We get a 2 threes, and a 2.
Youngstown State was like one of the first schools to truly give me a chance and not worry about me coming back from injury. And
Come on.
So just talking to Coach Doug and all the other coaches that were kind of recruiting me out of the portal, it was kind of a big deal for me to stick with somebody who didn't question me coming back from injury. So I just thank them all the time for it. Thank God for the opportunity to come here.
I ran the hill there a lot because I always question. I was always a why guy.
Oh, man.
Why are we doing this? And they said, well, get to the top of the hill and we'll tell you why. But those were good lessons that I learned. So.
I think it'd be fun to make all the appearances and get invited to places, but then the actual nitty gritty and the work that it takes, and that the mayor mentioned in his podcast how one phone call can change your entire the month, the week, because there's so many things at play and different things. So it's definitely. So why did you decide to step up into that? So we hear obviously the calling, but why did you feel like it was time now? I mean, you have a successful business, helping a lot of people. If you haven't been to the Youngstown Flea, by the way, go check it out. You will not be sorry. There's just so many. Every time I go, I just want to spend more and more money because it's just amazing what these people come up with and create, and glass, just people taking broken glass. I discovered, anyway, that's a whole different thing. But why now?
I would say that for the years that I've loved on this community, that the cry that I've heard coming from this community, I just could no longer ignore. It was a cry that is calling out and saying that we want better and we can be better. And so I have felt an impression that this is a precipice moment for this city, that is a critical election, that the next 4 years, Youngstown can't wait. Youngstown has folks on a residential level, on a business level, on a commercial level, on a relationship level, who are ready to vacate the city of Youngstown, who are divesting from the city of Youngstown if they don't see a different direction for the city of Youngstown. And so not only is that a part of the equation, but you have a city who is longing for real change from a real candidate who can deliver on what they say they're going to do. And so for me, it's a moment we cannot play with. It's a moment that is going to call out to us in years to come when we look back on November 4th of 2025 and say, this is a critical precipice moment that we get to say that was a delineating line that we drew in the sand for the future of the city of Youngstown.
So what are some of the changes that people are calling for?
Well, you look, for example, in our safety services, law enforcement officers are really at a point where they've taken a survey to tell us that they see a lack of leadership in this community, and our community residents are saying our safety forces are depleted, are no longer showing the necessary components to combat crime and violence, because we are staffing issues have plagued us. Morale has plagued us. Being able to see this department, specifically Youngstown Police, as a career is going out the door. We have a front-end revolving door where new hires and their pay, along with their commitment to this city, they're looking at us and saying, I'll cut my teeth in the city of Youngstown and then I'll go on to work somewhere else. On the back end of Youngstown Police Department, I'm hearing from folks who are saying, I could retire right now. I'm not willing to give you anything more or extra. So on the front end, we're challenged with staffing, and on the back end, we're challenged with staffing. And then as a community, what we're feeling is a lack of enforcement in a lot of areas, a lack of response to community needs when it comes to quality of life. When they dial 911, and oftentimes they're saying, I'm not getting a response for a lengthy period of time, or not getting a response at all because we're prioritizing the level of criminal activity happening in our community because of some of the other exacerbating issues that we've got. Officers are mandated overtime at this point, and it's dangerous to be doing something like that for long periods of time.
So you feel like those are things that you can address and change?
Yeah, absolutely. When you begin by listening to the folks who are telling you what the issues are, and you begin to bring those solutions to the table, you cannot fix what we will not acknowledge.
Okay.
We have to acknowledge that our law enforcement officers are telling us that mandated overtime is dangerous for them.
Wow. Because they're tired and...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to hear them when they say that recruiting efforts are bringing in new officers who are only cutting their teeth here and then leaving as fast as they can.
Okay.
You have to acknowledge that and address it. You have to acknowledge that they are saying publicly that I could retire now rather than give you any more of my time.
Oh, that's so... because it's not like we're in New York City where you're, it's an obvious
list of folks that are, ready to be New York City police officers.
It's stressful being a New York City police officer. So the fact that Youngstown, at the level, at the 60,000 people that we're at are feeling that, like there's definitely something wrong. I had not heard that. Let's talk about parking.
Sure.
Oh, because a lot of the downtown businesses, that was something that was challenging through construction, through COVID, through all these different things, and they've really hung on. So the city was able to make parking free for a little bit, which really, I was telling the mayor, really helped me out, but that's not going to be a forever case. What is your solution when you're thinking about parking and making it easy for people to come down into the city?
I think what we've got to do is we've got to go again to the people who are saying to us parking's still an issue for them. If the downtown businesses and stakeholders are bringing us issues along with city residents and the surrounding suburbs and cities who are visiting our community are still saying the issue, then I believe we've still got an issue.
Yeah.
And whether that's a perceived issue or a reality, because perception becomes reality. And so I believe that if we did a study, that you would arrive at this fact that there is plenty of parking downtown, but what we're not understanding is what people are saying to us is that they are looking for an abundance of convenient parking downtown.
Okay.
Not just enough parking. There's enough parking to house tons and tons of people at the Covelli Center.
Right.
But if I just want to pick up a pizza from Avalon, I'm not parking at the Covelli Center.
Right. No.
I want a convenience aspect. And I'm not saying every instance must be the most convenient, but there are some instances in which something as simple as getting a pizza picked up. I have observed with my own eyes, sitting behind people in traffic, someone dropping a passenger off at Avalon and lapping the block over and over and over again until that passenger comes back out with their pizza, and then they pick them back up because we don't have something as simple as a pickup spot for them. And so how do we
some
solve
common sense things like a pickup spot?
So we've got to go back and begin again with an admission that parking is still a pain point for some people. And we need to be able to arrive at a place where if downtown stakeholders have input for their specific business and for the downtown as a whole, then we need to take that input.
Right.
We cannot have our downtown businesses and stakeholders be left in a position where they've got to go to the media and beg to be heard. Beg to be heard. And that's where we go back to a dysfunctional city hall and administration that's not addressing these concerns. They don't understand what happened. Most folks don't understand what happened with the designs of downtown. And it was the Smart 2 project that we won't acknowledge was largely something that was driven by a $20 million grant and an autonomous shuttle that is sitting unused now.
Talk to us about the autonomous shuttle. We touched on that the last interview that I did with the mayor. He mentioned that, but I don't know much about that.
So I believe it was sought after under the McNally administration. At the time, it was called a Tiger Grant. But I believe coming into the Brown administration, they weren't successful in getting this transportation grant under the McNally administration, but they went back under in 2017, 2018
and got
when
it.
Mayor Brown came in, and they were successful in lobbying to get this grant. It was called the Smart 2 grant at the time, and so part of the conditions of accepting this grant was to trial this autonomous shuttle and provide that data back to the state on what the future of transportation could be. I believe WRTA is also trialing an autonomous shuttle as well.
Okay.
Not under the Smart 2 grant, but separately. But in submitting for this grant, you had to provide the state with a route that the grant was going to take.
Okay.
And so that route began at the WRTA bus terminal. If you see, one of the first streets that were redone was Fifth Avenue, because the bus was supposed to go up Fifth Avenue, pick up Youngstown State University students, take them to the CVS, take them to Stambaugh, take them to St. E's, take them over to the chill can plant. Now follow me, we're back in 2018
my goodness.
here.
Okay.
And then it was supposed to loop back to downtown. Well,
what would have been the chill can plant? Why would YSU students need to go to the chill can plant?
Don't ask too many questions here, Debbie. Again, I think we were just after a grant. I think we were just providing a route because it was a part of the grant requirements to give this shuttle a route to run. I don't know that the shuttle was simply meant to take YSU students to the chill can plant, or anyone who maybe worked at the chill can plant could grab this shuttle. But if you look at that route, for myself personally, much of it doesn't make sense. It was just, again, a condition of to get the grant.
Interesting.
So fast forward, CVS on Fifth Avenue closes.
Closed.
Chill can plant never materializes.
Oh, my.
And so this grant still has this condition of running this autonomous shuttle. But what happens when your route falls apart? And so now you have to go back and sort of retool this route.
Right.
And in my opinion, I believe we should have told the state that, one, an autonomous shuttle being trialed in the city of Youngstown in our present day is not something that we need to be doing at this point.
Okay.
And so we might need to revisit returning the funds, any leftover funds, to the state. We didn't. I believe we chose to now retool the route and say that this bus is going to run from WRTA to Federal Street and make a loop back around downtown. And so
so if somebody has to park further away, then they could get to
I don't know what the logic was,
something?
because it didn't run down to Youngstown Flea or Penguin City
It doesn't?
Brewery. No.
Wait. Okay.
So what we're looking at really is
I was about to
something
say that's
we need
a
to
decent
acknowledge
idea
is
for
a
parking.
failed
Okay.
idea. And that's where I go back and say we cannot fix what we will not acknowledge. It's a failed road project that has left us devastated. And we also need to make the connection that because of this retooled route from the Smart 2 project, that construction on Federal Street is also what led us to the Realty Tower explosion. We would not have been redoing Federal Street had we not retooled this Smart 2 grant and moved the project over to redoing Federal Street. And so our city has to be aware of how these things transpire.
Oh, man.
And so that to me is a sad admission to have to make to our community. It comes along with trauma, comes along with the loss of a life. It comes along with, other folks injured, the economic devastation and impact, the demolishing of a building.
Right.
But it's directly tied to and related to the Smart 2 project. And we have to, as a city, have leadership that will acknowledge that and atone for it and hold accountability to it. And that is additionally why I'm running for the mayor of the city of Youngstown, is because that accountability must be had.
Wow.
We have to have a transparent city hall that will tell us what happened to us. Most folks don't even know why we redid Federal Street.
No, I didn't know.
Over and over again, people are saying, how many times are we going to redo the downtown?
Oh,
and this is a time where it wasn't necessary and could have been avoided if we would have just been courageous enough to tell the state that we don't believe in our current conditions, that we would need to move forward with the remaining portion of this grant and an autonomous shuttle.
Yeah.
And now what you see is a $700,000 shuttle sitting, doing nothing, because the city has now run the shuttle in its completion. We've met the terms of the agreement.
Okay.
We were trying to sell the shuttle to WRTA. They said, we don't want it. We don't need it. And now we are sitting on this shuttle doing nothing with it.
Oh, my goodness.
And so, again.
Man, I feel like I've just been schooled. My goodness. What?
And
wow.
I know that these are longer things to discuss and can be taking up a lot of our podcast bandwidth, but they're important for us to recognize because if we don't know what's happening to us, we don't respond accordingly at the ballot box.
Oh, right.
That's why transparency in city government is so important, is because it's going to determine who we choose as our next leader if we know what is actually happening to us. And again, I'm an outside private citizen up until this point, but I've had a front row seat to the city hall for a decade in running the Youngstown fleet. And you can see these things happening. You can see folks. There was an article that came out where council members were saying that they wanted to see greater communication between the administration and downtown stakeholders and business owners and the city as a whole. I mean, how many times are we going to have to ask this city to communicate with us?
Oh, wow. So this has been like a long time, years and years and years, not just through like certain times.
This has been an ongoing period of thing. And so, if we go to the even communication around Realty Towers explosion, our downtown doesn't have an emergency communication system that alerted us that there was an explosion that happened downtown.
Wow.
And yet here we are more than a year later, and we still don't have an emergency plan in place for responding to tragic incidents like Realty Tower.
Okay.
So imagine if you're a business owner in the downtown.
Yeah.
And you have patrons inside of your business. Now, you know the liabilities of having people inside of your business.
I never even thought about like drills and stuff.
Right.
Or
and so what do you do when you learn through some communication from other business owners, not directly from the city itself, but from other people who are texting and calling saying, hey, a building just exploded. What do you do? Do you tell everyone in your establishment to go outside and leave and now possibly interfere with emergency services responding to this tragedy? Do you send them out into the chaos? Or do you now have the legal authority because of an emergency scenario to say to your patrons, you must please abide by this emergency call to stay put, stay here until we figure out more information? And we got that communication directly from the city administration.
Wow.
We don't.
Okay.
And when you run a business like I do for the last 10 years and like our downtown businesses and stakeholders, you know that you are liable for those things. No different than if a bar overserved you alcohol and sent you out to drive home, they're going to ask where you're coming from. And so communication directly from our city and City Hall is imperative. How do we learn that Realty Tower exploded? If you're in the downtown, how do I know how to respond to this tragedy that is sanctioned by the city in their best estimation of precautions and safety? We are telling, no different than if there was something that occurred on Youngstown State University's campus. They have an emergency alert system and text message that goes to all the students, right? So where is that for our city as it pertains to something specifically like downtown? Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we don't want to have to do those kinds of things. We don't. But you know what? A building has to have an evacuation plan. You don't want to have to need to
prevent like chaos and stuff. That would be I guess that's what leaders do, because I wouldn't have even thought, like, I mean, like all the details. I guess if I were in a leadership position in a city or a business, you have to think about those type of things. But definitely great points. So I am rounding down. This is been, I've learned. You guys have probably noticed I haven't talked as much on this podcast because I've just been kind of learning. Like I feel like well, before I ask a couple last questions, is there anything else that you would like to add that you feel like the city, the people of the city should know about? One of the things I was going to ask is, are there any resources that are available to city residents that you find that a lot of people don't know about? And then I want to kind of get into a couple last questions.
Sure. I would say that if I have the honor and pleasure of serving as this city's next mayor, one of the things that's so important for me is to empower our residents so that they don't have to wholly rely on city government so much for the resources that are actually out there for them to utilize.
Okay.
Folks in this city have a desire to want to get into home ownership, for example.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
there are resources out there that can assist with that.
Yeah.
But most folks going about the city see the vacant homes that are just sitting, and they don't know that there's a resource out there called the Mahoning County Auditor site that can help them just plug in an address and tell them who the owner of that vacant home is, and whether it's owned by a private citizen or a land bank that could allow them to pursue ownership of that property.
Oh, nice.
You know, vacant lots next to their homes. You know, we have resources that are out there that can help you potentially inquire about acquiring that vacant lot.
Yeah.
Down payment assistance, those are things that exist, but we're not shouting it from the rooftops. We're not engaging folks with some of the resources, and it's leaving our community to feel left out, forgotten, abandoned.
Yes.
So empowering our residents.
I have heard that. I have seen that. A lot of times the people who are connected to whatever, you know, nonprofit or whatever, they see these opportunities, and then somebody on the north side, they're trying to buy their lot next to them and run into all kinds of hurdles, or the south side. I've heard that type of thing, definitely, and they feel disempowered in the community and neighborhood that they love.
You know, one of the things I told a block watch in a neighborhood group, and I've been telling other residents and business owners, everybody I can tell that I've engaged with while canvassing, while running for this office, I've shared with them that whether I'm successful in this mayoral run or not, I want you to know how to advocate for yourself, whether it be down at City Hall, whether I'm in there. I want you to know how to bring all of the smoke, all of the frustration, all of the challenges, all of the issues in a way that actually gets you the results that you're looking for. And oftentimes what we're left with is individuals who are coming with issues rather than collectively arriving at what is plaguing our city and how do we go advocate for ourselves to get things done. I had a woman, for example, come to me and she says, I'm having issues as a family style home daycare. Compared to the larger centers and facilities, the way the state treats them is differently when it comes to funding and the amount of funding they can get and how they can spend that funding, right? And I said, well, how many other family-style home daycares are across the city of Youngstown have you built a coalition, and have you reached out to your council members, city hall administration, your state representative, your congressman, your senator? Those are the people, and they go, wow. Right? We never thought to band together. Find other folks.
But that's kind of like who you are. Is like your teacher, your natural like teacher. You want people to understand the process, and by that process, feel empowered. I'm feeling that even like right now, just in this podcast, I feel, you know, that sense of, hey, let me help you understand the foundation. And with the building blocks or the ABCs, then you're empowered, and then we could work together with a leader. You know what I'm saying? To be able to affect change.
I can go out and make all the commitments that I want to make in order to try and garner a vote to be successful in this mayoral race. But what I want is to make those commitments and then teach you, if necessary, how to hold me to those commitments, because that goes well beyond the current administration, whether Mayor Brown is successful in another term or I'm successful in getting that seat. Our community needs to know for generations to come how to advocate for itself, how to hold accountability, how to demand transparency, how to band together as block watches, neighborhood groups, community associations. And you have an East Side who feels largely forgotten about. They are watching over what is happening on the south side. The south side feels like the downtown is getting all the attention. Much of the entire city feels like most of the investment's been happening in the downtown. And what we don't realize is that a city, we are individually suffering in our silos, watching one another in jealousy, in frustration, in anger. And really what we all need is our own care for our perspective and our part of the elephant. And if we can teach people for what they need, and a lot of folks don't even ask me for a lot while I'm out canvassing. It's street lights. It is, how do we go for a walk at night? How do we?
So this brings up something that I've been wondering about, and I haven't really asked. So guys, I have a couple more questions for him right after this commercial, and then we'll be right back to close up the podcast. Don't go away. All right, guys, we are back. And one of the questions I have for Derrick, now again, he is not yet in politics, so I'm asking you this question just because it's been on my mind, but I haven't taken the time, and now you kind of bring it up. So when we had the money coming into the city, there was a big millions and millions of dollars. From what I understood, each ward got a certain amount of money?
Yes.
Okay. So you said that the south side is kind of feeling neglected because the downtown has not gotten or has gotten a lot of attention through grants and stuff like that. Can you, like, kind of, just from what you've seen, obviously you weren't responsible for it, but what has been some of the changes that these wards have been able to do or have done or haven't done with the money that they've been given? They each were given, what, $2 million?
Yes.
Okay. So what were some of the changes that you've seen across the city that people made good use of those funds?
So I'll tell folks a little background. COVID hit, and as a response to COVID, we received these American Rescue Funds. If I'm correct, we received half of the funds in 2021, and another half in deposited in 2022, totaling about $82.7 million.
Okay.
If you know about our government, City Council is the legislative body, and so immediately what happened is a council member proposed writing legislation that would have awarded $1 million to each council member. They then decided to up that amount to $2 million apiece. And so council put forth this legislation. They passed this legislation totaling $14 million set aside for city council members to have access to these funds. I think right after that, they also set aside $10.5 million. So city council, again, wrote these ordinances, not a mayor. And they awarded $10.5 million of the $82.7 for, use within our park system. And so that's $24.5 million allotted right off the bat. And so I will speak just plainly before I answer your question that I'm challenged when we begin without a strategic plan for the entire set of $82.7 million, that we're already allocating funds to different things without a strategic plan from the administration. Working with City Council to arrive at every single dollar must be accounted for. There must be procedural justice around how we're going to arrive at the decisions and how we're spending money. And that's what I've been an advocate for. That's when I speak about transparency. When I say you have taxpayer dollars in your coffers, you owe us a website where we can follow along with every single one of these projects, with every single one of the pennies that you've spent. And so, I know sometimes people and individuals can take that personally, where they believe I'm speaking poorly about some of the projects that have happened or some of the decisions that were made. I'm just speaking from a CEO's business perspective, that you don't allow $82.7 million to come into your checking account that belongs to taxpayers and not set up a system in which we can clearly see down to the penny, strategically how this money will be used and allow the community to follow along. That is where a lot of frustration comes from. That is a lot of where you see people saying, I don't know where the money was spent. It's not some accusation that it was misspent or embezzled or stolen. It's just that we didn't give them the opportunity to truly follow along in an in-depth way. Council members, some of them did have, town hall meetings to allow folks opportunity. The city of Youngstown began with some, ARPA public meetings to gather input, but largely after that, you really had a difficult time following along with that process. I believe even if you go to the city's website now, you will see a pie chart that shows you will see a spreadsheet that breaks down, but it says things like, City Council, $14 million. And it's not exploded anywhere beyond that.
Got it.
It is not down to the, ward.
Yeah, so this for sidewalks, this for cleanup, this for...
Exactly. And so it can be, again, hard to follow along with. And so, but to answer your question, some of the projects that you see are in First Ward, for example, Councilman Oliver in the city, along with, YNDC, or built, houses on Bernard Street, which is now renamed Cliffview. You see folks, questioning input on city parks that have been created. One specifically on Market in Indianola at that intersection. And so there are some projects that the community's perceiving as very good, and some projects that we're seeing and perceived as very challenging to swallow when it comes to the amount of money that was put into that and where that project is leading us. And so, there are efforts to, I believe in the 7th Ward, for example, that former councilwoman allotted a huge portion of her funding, $1.3 million, to an all-inclusive park where Ike Field was. They haven't begun work on that as of yet, but, folks' sentiment towards that was, hey, we believe an all-inclusive park could be wonderful. But folks on the other side have challenged that because if it's right next to the fire station. On a busy, Midlothian. And so, that's where we get down to me as a business owner. I want to see that our community has had an opportunity to deeply give input on all of this money and present forth a strategic plan. Because this is a one-time bailout. Quite honestly, that we got. And you won't see these kinds of funds come into the city's hands. You don't want to see these kinds of funds come into a city's hands because of a pandemic, because of the devastation that was caused by COVID-19. But if we're going to get money like this, we need to be tracking well. I will say that there's onus on all of us, not just the city administration, not just city council members, but community members as well, to get engaged, go to the meetings, come down to City Hall, engage with the folks who have this money, but also know how to hold the accountability that we need, know how to advocate for those kinds of things, because each council member had plans that were arrived at that some folks were challenged with and some folks see as a benefit. 2nd Ward, I believe there was money allocated by that councilman to clean up the old McGuffey Mall site. That money was given, but we haven't seen those results yet. And so folks are asking where, when, how, what's going to be the future of that project. And so all across this city, you're seeing projects exacted, and some of it we just don't know if that's going to have a return on investment. Some of us, we don't know that it was going to happen at all. And I would say, again, still to this date, I'm not aware of any resource that points me down to the penny where every council person's money and every dollar of the 82.7 was spent, along with who are the contractors that we used, where are the blueprints that we can see the final outcomes, and that's challenging to me. And as a new mayor, we're going to go back and revisit some of that stuff and just help the community understand that this is where this project came from. This is why we arrived at that decision. And we're going to shout that loudly. We're going to put resource behind getting that message out and widespread. If we can follow along with what's going on in our city.
Right.
I give a quick example is in my time at AT&T, there's a lot of training that you go through as a leader, as a manager, and taking care of people. And so if you come into your favorite restaurant, remember it's your favorite restaurant with a friend, and there's no one at the greeting counter to tell you, hey, we're very busy today and it's going to be a 45-minute wait. You're confused because it's your favorite restaurant, and usually there's someone there waiting to greet you and tell you what your expectations are for the day. Right. The studies tell you that because it's your favorite restaurant, you're willing to wait about 15 minutes before you start arriving at a decision on whether you're going to stay or leave your favorite restaurant, let alone if it's just a regular restaurant. Right. But the data tells us that if someone was there at your favorite restaurant to greet you and tell you that there's an hour and 15-minute wait, what that does to your ability to wait is exponentially increased. Really? Because I was greeted and told that this could be up to an hour and 15 minutes, and it's my favorite restaurant. You look at your friend and say, would you like to wait? The reason is because you were given a choice. Oh. You were informed about the conditions of what's going on at your favorite restaurant. And if they give you additional data that says our server, our cook was sick today, or, it's Sunday and Super Bowl, there's just, more people coming here than we thought. All that data matters in the decision you're going to make on whether you stay at that restaurant and eat there or not. Well, what happens when a community isn't given that kind of data and information about things? We have grown frustrated. Yeah. I won't even call it impatient at this point, because they have waited and waited and waited and waited for a seat at the table, metaphorically in their own city and literally. And they're not getting it. Responses. Imagine calling customer service. Imagine we call it community service hotlines and not getting a response from your favorite restaurant, your favorite city that you love. Yeah. You're not getting a response. Imagine asking for the manager. Imagine asking for the mayor, and he won't come out. Won't tell you what's going on. Refuses to communicate.
Then, that's first of all, again, a good teaching lesson. Unbelievable. That's amazing. All right. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to look right at the listeners and give a bid for McDowell for mayor on November 4th. So go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to ask you our last and final question that I'd like to ask all the people we interview. So go ahead.
Well, hey, City of Youngstown, I'm Derrick McDowell, and I'm telling you that I love this city. This city has been God deposited into my heart, and I will work every day of my life, give every breath that I have to see the city that I love thrive, to reclaim its identity and its rightful place within not only this city, but this region and this state. We have such an asset here. We have the amenities that everyone is after, and we need only recognize who we are, our value and our worth and our significance. So on November 4th, I'm asking you to dive deeply into who I am. Call me, message me, go to my website and contact me if you still need to know more. But I'm asking you to get involved. Voter turnout is often low, but I guarantee you this time, with the energy that I'm seeing, the hope that I'm feeling and hearing from our residents, we can make a shift that will change the city of Youngstown for generations to come. So if you'll get involved, if you'll reach out, if you'll do your part, I promise to do mine. You'll be able to hold me accountable. You'll be able to see what we're doing transparently. You'll be able to know how to advocate for yourself when I'm done empowering this community with the help of all of the folks who love, live, work, and love here. I appreciate your opportunity to be your next mayor if you so grace me with it in November.
All right. Well, there you go. There you go. Everybody. A word from McDowell. Okay. So the one thing that I like to ask every single person that we interview is 3 of your favorite places. Okay. And now I know that's hard because you bounce all over the place. But 3 places that you would tell the listeners that they should check out. They don't have to be food places. It could be a mechanic, a hairstylist. I see your amazing hairstyle. It could be anybody, like any gems that you're like, you know what? this place is great, and I would tell my friends about it.
You know, it's dangerous for me because I love so many different spaces, and if I name 3, people are going to be like, "You didn't say."
I know that.
But I'm gonna just jump off the cliff here, and you guys can call me out on it later. But I do believe that in my upbringing, we grew up right up from the former Foster Theater on Laclede.
Oh,
and,
wow! Okay.
We did not explore Mill Creek Metro Parks in the way that I believe it needs explored by our community. It is such a gem and asset to our community. That does not to disparage any of our other wonderful parks, but I myself have had to take the time because I just didn't as a kid. Like I told you, at 14 years old, we came back here. My mom was going through her own things, and we didn't think to just stop, take a moment, and explore what a wonderful gym. And I have just begun really doing that in the last number of years. We do a market there called Flea at Fellows.
Okay, at the Rose Gardens.
The Rose Gardens for Mother's Day.
Okay.
And it's beautiful to watch and sit back and see the merger of 2 entities like the Youngstown Flea and Mill Creek Metro Parks. So
I actually looked it up one time. Fellows Riverside Gardens gets, I want to say, over 300,000 visitors. I mean, a year. Yeah. I mean, just that one area of the park. Incredible. And,
you know, it has economic impact for our community, and it has recreational value to us as well, and quality of life, you know, that really, I see a lot of activities happening back there that can engage us in a way where we can kind of help dispel this thing that there's nothing to do in Youngstown. When I see people rollerblading back there, pickleball, tennis, kayaking, paddle boating, and
all the Mill Creek,
bird watching. I mean, you don't
and it
realize
relies so much on volunteers. Some of the great people in this city take the time and they plant the flowers and they do the upscape. I mean, obviously there's the staff too, but the gardening clubs, right?
And
so
it may not be the
things.
Traditional ways in which we entertain ourselves, but we need to explore that. That's why I'm saying,
right? Okay.
You know, the first time we did the Flea at Fellows there on Mother's Day, I had to do some damage control with my own wife on Mother's Day, and Mill Creek Metro Parks came in handy. I got a kayak, and I was packed a lunch, and we went out, and you know, my kids helped me out say, "You're doing a market on Mother's Day at the Flower Gardens," and I'm like, "Okay, hey honey, come right over here. We got it all laid out. This nice blanket and this nice picnic basket and this kayak."
So for those of those who don't know, you are married and you have 3 kids?
4 kids.
4 kids. 4 kids. Yeah. Okay.
We fostered a 5th, so at one point we had 5 kids in our home.
Wow!
So.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right.
But so another would be. I'm going to go with Handel's ice cream. Now, I'm going to tell on myself here. I used to joke and tell people that my taste buds, you know, didn't have a preference, and I could eat, you know, ice cream from you know, any convenience store, and it would be all the same. And then, you know, somebody was like, "You're an idiot, and you must not have ever had Handel's." And now that we're willing to wait out in the cold to get a pint,
all winter long.
Handel's has been killing it. So I go to the original one still on
Midlothian.
And it's right near my home, and I enjoy it. And I would say my time at YSU, Youngstown State University, is another hidden gem that when I was there for that 3.5-year period, I was such in a hustle and bustle, probably again trying to prove that I was someone.
Okay.
Coming off of the heels of my oldest brother being murdered, not wanting to wind up a statistic, not wanting to wind up someone who didn't have anything to their name, didn't have any accolades to point to. You know, I gave a stab at college, but my time there, I worked 2 jobs, worked midnights, worked on campus. You know, my studies were very challenging. And so I just never took the time to enjoy the beauty of the lawn, the fountain, the student center, and boy, what has campus become now?
Right.
You know, I was there in 1998.
Wow.
You know, coming out of high school and into, you know, tail end of 2021. You know, when I left school, and so I do take time now to see. You know, I didn't know of. You know, YSU's Summer Festival of the Arts.
Yes,
you know, I didn't know of all the beautiful architectural designs of some of the buildings on our campus. You know, I didn't explore the libraries and the, you know, just different But I took one tennis class to satisfy a health requirement, and I actually fell in love with tennis. I know I'm not that good at it.
That's so funny.
You know, those are 3 gems that I think we have in our community that I would say take the time to explore. And there are amenities beyond that, but there's some connection with Youngstown State University and Youngstown City Schools. Explore the Y-Star program that if you graduate from Youngstown City Schools, they have a program funded by the Community Foundation that pays for your tuition, your books, your housing, your meal plan.
What?
And so, you know, had I known that,
seriously,
like,
what? How long, dude?
I believe it's somewhere in around 5 or 6 years that they've had this program.
Oh, you guys, see, that's good.
There's some opportunity when my brain gets to clicking about becoming the next mayor and bridging the gap between, you know, our early education on into post-secondary education. We can package things for people who are outside the city of Youngstown and within the city of Youngstown to bring down a lot of the angst and anxiety around providing education.
Amazing.
If I could tell you that you could buy an affordable home in the city of Youngstown and graduate from a Youngstown City School and pay for college with this Y-Star program, man, can we package this city and really begin to present that to folks?
In my opinion, we have to work on the education.
Absolutely.
We have to work on the education. We have to make it something worth talking about.
Absolutely.
And we've had series of setbacks. And hopefully that this is a fresh start to say, hey, there is, like, we are graduating college graduate or people who want to go to college. We're graduating people who are ready. And I love that program with
my wife is an educator of 20 years. So we talk deeply about the challenges of the district and our community as a whole. And so as a mayor, one of the things you will see from me is a citywide push for the challenges that we have around education, and those being parental engagement, that being attendance. My wife says it all the time. I can't and we can't educate our kids if they're not in school. And you get into our reading levels. Our kids are not reading on grade level. And so those 3 areas, from a mayor's perspective, you touched on it before in our comments, the mayor does not have the authority to run the district, but you do have the ability. You have the honor and the pleasure of championing education all across this city and creating citywide initiatives and infrastructure to support the district heavily to make sure that education in the city of Youngstown is something we can brag about.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And I have to give a quick shout out to, so YSU has a recreation center with rock climbing wall and like ropes course and stuff. And you could actually you don't have to be a YSU student. You could actually have a party there. You could book your parties. And so check that out if you're looking for I know, right? Check that out if you're looking for something fun to do, to have like a party with friends and stuff. You could do the rock climbing wall. They have a bunch of different activities.
They're investing $58 million in the student center. I can't wait.
See, that's
and we could easily get jealous. Like, you didn't have any of this when I was here.
I know, right?
I might re-enroll at this point.
And then I have to also say, guys, make sure you check out the Penguin Signal podcast. It's once a month. We film down at the Varsity Club, and we actually interview YSU athletic teams. So we've done bowling and football and golf and swimming, and I'm missing some in there, but they were so much fun. And you really get to know these players. So they just had their YSU football kickoff, and the 2 MVP players of that game were 2 players that I had on the football.
So I know podcast. Every time you and I can go back and forth, which is going to make your podcast segment so much longer, but you're touching on something that goes back to when I talk about reclaiming our identity. I want to be clear that the wonderful parts of our identity that we can lead and leverage into industry involve our athletic prowess.
Yes.
When you talk about the history and the present conditions of our athletic prowess, that is now called sports tourism. It is name, image, and likeness deals that bring economy into communities. I have traveled this country with my 4 kids participating in sports and clubs and camps and this, that, and the other. But what happens when you're putting more into another community's economy than you're putting into your own? And we have the infrastructure here to begin to bring more of that economy. It's not just athletics, though. Let's not stop there. Part of our identity has always been rooted in entrepreneurship and small business. That is what brought us the mills.
Right.
That is what brought us to the place where we were world known for our steel mill and manufacturing processes.
Yeah.
We just sort of forgot that it's not the mills that were really the part of our identity. That's an industry.
Yeah.
The part of our identity that we should have leaned on is our entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Building small business. If we can build the mills, we can build back something better than what the mills can offer in this day and age for today's world. I'm not disparaging the mills. We have an honor to have that history,
right?
But
Absolutely.
also our arts, entertainment, culture, and community. Those are things we can leverage. We should be regionally known and renowned and be drawing folks here for our arts. And I'm not saying we're not doing it at all, talking to a greater degree. And so those things are when I talk about the former identities of steel mills, mob, and murder. We need to be pushing into the identities that are wonderful about our city. And that is athletics, arts, entertainment, culture, all of that.
Right.
That and entrepreneurship.
Amazing.
And guess what that's going to do for all of the other components of our community. When we build our education and our entrepreneurship, those are two things that we know that are great equalizers in our society that are going to help lift us out of poverty.
That's
true. If I can put you in the place of earning money legitimately, you'll not go out here and rob somebody illegally. We're hoping that you understand the more educated our community is, the less they're falling into or falling behind in our society. And so those are the ways, in addition to trying to solve some of the issues that we've got to see how our identity is going to solve some of the social ills that we're dealing with, as well as lead us back to industries that we want.
Amazing.
And when you get to those industries, you're now a diversified economy that will start bringing other industries. Enrollment begets enrollment.
I love it. I love it. Guys, this has been so good. Thank you so much for coming today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
This has been such a great and learning podcast. I hope that you guys have watched and rewatched if you needed to kind of make up your mind for your upcoming vote on November 4th. It was my honor to get to interview both of these candidates. But I just wanted to say, no matter what is happening in the world around you, never, ever underestimate your ability to make a difference. You are the best part of what makes this whole region click. You are the best part of what you have to offer. Somebody needs you, exactly the package of you. So thank you for watching. And until next time, keep making that difference.